What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be using a tier list to rank the greatest welterweight boxers of all time. Let's get into it. Alrighty, so I really love doing these. I really appreciate everybody watching these. Make sure to subscribe, comment down below you guys' opinions. I have so many more ideas for tier lists, from best defensive fighters, best southpaw fighters, you name it. Of course, with the other weight divisions I still have to do, but I really enjoy doing these. I really enjoy all the support, everybody just watching and appreciating my opinions, even though they might differ than yours. So welterweight boxers, I have about 21 of them here. I just decided from all eras, pick the best of the best like I always do. Now, I want to point out, because some people have been getting a little confused lately. They think I put a boxer in a C or a B tier. They think that I'm saying that they're an overall a C and a B tier boxer. No, no, no. I'm saying exactly what they're doing and exactly what they did at welterweight. So, for example, Roberto Duran. He's obviously, you could make the case that he's an S tier boxer overall. Greatest lightweight of all time, and of course, one of the greatest boxers of all time. But for welterweight, he only was a welterweight champion one time against Sugar Ray Leonard, and then lost in the rematch in an embarrassing way to lose also. So would Roberto Duran be an A tier welterweight and S tier welterweight? No. So I'm going to put for welterweight division, best welterweight version of Roberto Duran compared to everybody else on this list is a C tier. Now, before you get offended, go back to what I just said. What he did at welterweight. Now, I wouldn't put him at D, even though he's a one-time welterweight champion. I wouldn't put him at D because why? He bumped up from lightweight to welterweight and beat the best welterweight in the planet, Sugar Ray Leonard, and one of the best welterweights of all time, Sugar Ray Leonard. So that's why he deserves that C spot. But that's all he done. That's all he has done at welterweight. So that's all I could really say for Roberto Duran, and that's just an example that I'm going to use. So now back to the S tiers, like we always do. We always start off with S tiers. So right off the bat, where is he? Sugar Ray Robinson, probably the greatest welterweight of all time, S tier. Pound for pound, you can even make the case that he is the greatest boxer of all time. But once again, focusing on just what he did at welterweight, was a champ for many years, could have had many more title shots, but was, of course, screwed over because of the mafia. Sugar Ray Robinson, if you don't know him, all right, by now, he's definitely 100% S tier boxer. Then the next S tier welterweight boxer, and I really think there's only like two welterweight S tier boxers, and that's Sugar Ray Leonard. So the two Sugar Rays being S tier. Now Sugar Ray, he makes this list, and he's probably the only one on here with him and Robinson because, well, his opponents he faced, Wilfred Benitez, Roberto Duran, Thomas Hearns. Okay, he beat all three of those guys, Hall of Fame fighters in the welterweight division. Incredible speed, incredible footwork, incredible hand placement, incredible defense. Sugar Ray Leonard, without a doubt, S tier welterweight. Now let's do some of the D tier welterweight. So there's really not many. I'd say probably Timothy Bradley, if I could find him. I'd say Timothy Bradley. Here he is. Timothy Bradley is a D tier welterweight. No disrespect. Still a welterweight champion, still one of the better welterweight champions. That's why he's on here. But compared to everybody else, D tier. I'll also put Canelo Alvarez at D tier. You might be thinking like he was welterweight. Yeah, he started his career off with welterweight, but he picked up over 30 wins as a welterweight, won that NABF title, held that for a lot of years, held a bunch of Latin belts in the welterweight division. So I thought he deserved to be on this list, but of course not any higher than a D. So I'd say him and Tim Bradley D tier welterweights. Going up to A tier now, I'll put Thomas Hearns at A tier, one of the best right hands of all time. Uses incredible height, 6'1", 6'2", I believe, at welterweight. I mean, he's a weight bully, but still, that's a freak athlete being in that division. Incredible power. Was a champion, of course, but didn't do as much in the welterweight division compared to Robinson and Leonard. I'd say Terrence Crawford, A tier welterweight. Of course, undisputed champion. His opponents weren't as good as Robinson or Leonard. All right, he also just didn't have as much dominance in that division for a long period of time as the other two guys. Of course, notable beating Sean Porter and Errol Spence. Now, of course, that beatdown on Errol Spence was incredible. Incredible. Errol Spence, top 10 pound for pound guy that he was fighting and just beat him down. But he already bumped up to 154 now to super welterweight. For now, I'm going to go with A. Maybe as time goes on, maybe I'll change my mind, but right now I'm comfortable putting Terrence Crawford at A tier for a welterweight. I'm going to say Manny Pacquiao A tier. Barely, though. Barely. He's in between the A and B tier, but I'm going to go with A just because he holds two different belts at welterweight, the WBO and WBA. Had a lot of impressive wins at a younger age and an older age. First won the WBO welterweight title against Miguel Cotto by stoppage, so that's a very impressive win there. Defeated Mosley, Marquez, and Bradley at welterweight. So those are three quality wins. Also defeated Vargas, but then at an older age, 39 to 40 years old. Broner, very, very impressive win there. Because Broner, I get it, we like to clown on him now. He was just coming off a loss, but Broner was a very dangerous fighter back then. Manny Pacquiao beat him. Then Keith Thurman, one of the most impressive wins ever. 40 years old against a young, hungry Keith Thurman, and he beat him, even put him down. Okay, got that win for the welterweight title. Lost against Jeff Horn, but we all know he won that fight. Lost against Floyd Mayweather, fair and square. Okay, but Floyd Mayweather's also one of the best ever, but I'm really comfortable with Manny Pacquiao being at A tier. Floyd Mayweather, he's between S and A. Now, this might be one of those you're going to be in the comments disagreeing, and that's okay. This was hard. This was hard. I'm going to go with A. All right, very, very close to S. A lot of experience, a lot of title wins, a lot of quality opponents that he beat at welterweight. Ricky Hatton, Robert Guerrero, Medina, Pacquiao, of course, a bunch of guys at welterweight. But it was just the way he won. The way he won them. Hit and not get hit. And that was really it. I mean, he knocked out Ricky Hatton, knocked out Victor Ortiz in a cheap shot, even though Ortiz deserved it. But, I mean, we don't know if he actually would have knocked him out fair and square. We don't know that. So, the way he won compared to Robinson and Leonard, I can't put him on that tier. Even though he had more wins at welterweight, or as much as many, and defeated a lot of quality opponents at welterweight, they don't really compare to S. But I'd say Floyd definitely is above Crawford, Hearns, and Pacquiao at welterweight, but just not enough to be on S tier. If you want to look at Sugar Ray Leonard, what he did at welterweight, he knocked out Wilfred Benitez. He knocked out Dave Boy Green. He knocked out or made Roberto Duran quit. He knocked out Larry Bonds. He knocked out Ayub Kalule. He knocked out Thomas Hearns. He knocked out Bruce Finch. I mean, he stopped these guys. Floyd Mayweather, not so much. That's why I can't put Floyd at S tier. A tier, still very good. Speaking of Wilfred Benitez, I'm going to put him at C tier. As a boxer, he's B or A tier, but only at welterweight. He won the WBC welterweight and the ring titles in 1979, defended them once, and then lost them against Sugar Ray Leonard. So that's why I have to put him at C tier. Pernell Whitaker, a long reigning WBC welterweight champion. Okay, one of the best defensive boxers ever. I'm going B tier for Pernell Whitaker. From 1993, he was a WBC champion all the way up to 1997. Lost that to De La Hoya, but then had contested for a title against Felix Trinidad in 1999. So he had a lot of experience, a lot of years at welterweight, one of the best defensive boxers ever. So B tier for Pernell. Oscar De La Hoya, speaking of him, I'd say A tier. He's in between A and B tier. Now, let me tell you why. His quality of opponents were much better than Pernell Whitaker's. You know what I mean? I have to say A tier, but barely cracking A tier. Defeated Whitaker. Defeated Julio Cesar Chavez. Even though he was older, still beat him. Defeated Hector Camacho. And defeated Ike Corkley. So he had a lot of good wins at welterweight. Was a welterweight champion for a couple of years also. A lot of experience at welterweight. So I think A tier is a good spot for Oscar De La Hoya. Felix Trinidad, I'm going to say also A tier. He was a long reigning champion as well. Held the IBF welterweight title from 1993 all the way up to 2001. Also won the WBA title. So he was like a two-time, three-time champion at welterweight. Also won the WBC title against Oscar De La Hoya in 1999. He defeated Pernell Whitaker. He defeated Fernando Vargas. He defeated William Joppy. He defeated Rodney Moore, Larry Barnes. So you can even make the case that he could be pushing S tier a little, but nah. I think A tier is a good spot for Pernell. I'm sorry, for Tito Trinidad. All right, let's go back in time a little bit. Kid Gavilan. I'm going to say A tier also. I'm being a little too, generous with these A tiers, but I have to say A tier. Undisputed welterweight champion from 1951 to 1954. One of the best Cuban boxers of all time. He's also named Fighter of the Year in 1953. So he's in between A and B, but I think, legendary status, great style, undisputed champion for 3 years at welterweight. I think that's comfortable enough, good enough to be at A. After those losses, he came back and still did some damage at welterweight, like I like to see in boxers, okay? He won the WBC interim welterweight title against Luis Collazo, lost against Miguel Cotto, comes back, though, to defeat Antonio Margarito by stoppage to win the WBA welterweight title. That's always good to see. And then lost against Manny Pacquiao for the WBO welterweight title in 2011. And his career really didn't do much else at welterweight, but I think he deserves to be on this list, and I think he deserves to be at B tier. Jose Napoles. I'm actually I like this one. I like this fighter. I came across him when I was doing a short, when I made my YouTube short, top 5 greatest welterweights ever. Came across his career. He was dominant. I watched his highlights a lot, saw what he accomplished. two-time undisputed welterweight champion from 1969 to 1975. All right, basically dominated the late 60s and early 70s at the welterweight division. I definitely believe he deserves to be A tier. Guys, I think we have another S tier boxer. I didn't even think of it. Henry Armstrong, S tier. Already, I thought before I started this video, I was thinking, two Sugar Rays are S tier, but Henry Armstrong defended his welterweight title 19 times already. He was so dominant. Very, very good boxer. If you don't know Henry Armstrong, one of the best boxers of all time. But at welterweight, 19 times defended his title. World champion, destroyed through guys. Had the NYSAC, the NBA, and the ring welterweight title. So definitely S tier for Henry Armstrong. Barbados Joe Walcott. Now, he was the welterweight champion, world welterweight champion for 5 years, 1901 to 1906. Of course, 1901 to 1906, the competition wasn't as good back then. However, he did what he had to do. He did what he had to do. One of the better welterweight boxers of all time. A tier for him. Zab Judah. Alrighty, so he won some belts at welterweight already. Defeated Corey Spinks in the rematch in 2005 to win the WBA undisputed WBC, IBF, and the ring welterweight titles and defended that once. That's really all he did at welterweight. So for that, I'm gonna go C tier. Not D tier because, he won a couple belts, defeated a good guy like Corey Spinks, which I guess you could say should be on here, but held 3 different belts, 4 if you're including the ring. That's good enough for C. You know what, guys? I'll put Wilfred Benitez at B tier. I'm realizing, come on, the same level as Zab Judah and the same level as Roberto Duran, who only has 1 win at welterweight. I'll give Wilfred Benitez the B tier. Still a very good boxer, but that's why I put him at C originally, because he just didn't do much compared to Pernell Whitaker and Shane Mosley. But I guess at the same time, if I'm going to put Shane Mosley at the B tier, I got to put Wilfred Benitez. So I'm moving Wilfred up to B tier. Emil Griffith, undisputed welterweight champion for a while, actually. Benny Parrott knocked him out in 1961 to win the NYSAC, NBA, and the ring welterweight titles. Defended that, lost them along the way, but always revenged his titles. Ended up getting them back. Ralph Duvis, Don Fulmer, Christensen, Luis Manuel Rodriguez. Lost to, of course, Jose Napoles, who was on here, but Luis Manuel Rodriguez, Ryan Curvis. So he has a lot of good wins over the years. Okay, undisputed welterweight champion for Emil Griffith, one of the better welterweight champions of all time. I'm going A tier. Errol Spence, former unified welterweight champion. All right, defeated some good guys, but not on the same level as guys on S tier, obviously, and not even on the same level as guys on A tier. I'm going with B tier for Errol Spence. I mean, of course, was still very good at welterweight. Knocked out Kell Brook, defeated Lamont Peterson, Mikey Garcia, Sean Porter, Danny Garcia, and Ugas. Then got embarrassed by Terrence Crawford. Alrighty, now, nothing wrong with that, but, his opponents are solid, enough to be above D and C tier, but not enough to be A tier or S tier. I'm hoping for a good comeback for Errol Spence. I'd like to see him try to win a belt at 154. I don't want to see him done yet, but for welterweight, I think B is good enough. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my welterweight tier list. I know you guys don't agree with everything. That's fine. Let me know down in the comments what you guys would change. I'll be happy to hear. Maybe it'll change my mind. Maybe I'll change your mind. But yeah, guys, make sure to always like, comment, subscribe. All right, and more tier lists, more boxing history, more boxing content in general down the road. We're just getting started. I'm out, guys. Peace.